Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeaux. We are the founders of JRNI Coaching.
We're super passionate about all things coaching and want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training over 1,000 life coaches.
Dive deep into a more meaningful career, find freedom, and make an impact on the world around you.
Hey guys, welcome. This is number 3 in our series, Can I Make It as a Coach? And today we're going to talk about mindset and market outlook. Noelle, how are you?
I'm well. This is one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, I think for me, mindset's one of my favorite topics in general, but especially when it comes to coach. And maybe for you, market outlook, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I love data. I love
Yeah.
market outlooks. And the data and the numbers give us such good information about, what's going on in the world and how we can show up. But for me, mindset is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of people are inspired to become a coach, but not all of them want to be entrepreneurs. And this is such a good point.
Absolutely. Because if you want to run a successful coaching business, you can be a great coach, and that's awesome. But if you're not good at running a successful business, you're going to need help and support to do that.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you can't, but you do need help and support. If you're an amazing coach, but you're not, or you don't have a lot of entrepreneurial skills, you're probably not going to be coaching many people.
Very much. Or, the test case study is Noelle, the baby coach, when I insisted upon putting up profile pictures where I was wearing sunglasses and was too scared to put my writing
Mm,
out there
right,
and
right.
hid behind John's legs like a little 3-year-old. So that's me. That's real. It's super true. And Noelle as a coach requires a team to run a successful business. I can't do it on my own, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I got to say, real quick, if you are one of these people where you're a good coach, but you're not that great of an entrepreneur yet, I want to give you a mindset instantly, and that is it's better to be a good coach and not that good of an entrepreneur than it is to be a great entrepreneur but not that good of a coach.
Yes, absolutely. Because entrepreneurial skill sets you can either pay somebody else for or you can
Right,
build that
right.
muscle.
Yeah, you could outsource it. You could build teams. You could do other things. If you're not a good coach, that's on you.
Right. Right. And if you're not a good coach, come to Journey. We'll train you up and get you on your way.
Right, right.
The piece here that I think is step one in understanding this topic is the investment, that it
Yeah.
takes so much time, money, focus, energy to create a sustainable coaching business.
Yes, one of the misconceptions is that I'm not going to be a therapist. I'm going to be a coach because it's a shortcut, and
Mhm.
it's not true. I mean, it is a shortcut if you look at like the actual, the journey of getting hours and your degree, going back to school, and all of that. But as far as building a practice, they're the same. There's no shortcut there.
No, there's no shortcut there. And on some levels, it's even harder because you don't have the systematized medical model
Right.
to rely on. And then, on the other hand, it's easier because all you need to launch a coaching business is a laptop, a phone, and reliable internet connection.
Right. It's also easier because you don't have a board breathing down your neck, your throat. So wait, your throat, your neck. What is it? A board breathing down your back? Is it your back?
It's definitely not your back, but I really like this game.
What is it? There's breathing down your what? There's a saying. Anyway, you
I
don't have
think it's I think it's neck, but at this point I'm
breathing.
confused, and
Yeah,
so I'm not gonna,
you have the freedom to do a lot of things that therapists don't have the freedom to do, and so to me
Yes.
that makes it easier as well.
Yes, and you have the freedom to reinvent yourself
Yeah.
as many different times as you want. You could go from and I do recommend starting out as a coach working for somebody else. hopping on one of the platforms that employs our coaches like Noom or
Yeah.
Verb, MindGem, eh, and there are so many. And figuring out, okay, what's it like to deal with clients? What are the systems that big companies use? How can I learn from somebody else's system how to set it up for myself?
Right. Right. The good news is there's never been a better time to make the leap into self-employment,
Mhm.
right? Um, I think especially I mean, it's like 2 things. 1, the obviously the internet, but 2, the pandemic has gotten so many people to create new things from home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And my grandfather had a saying, and he used it to describe different ways of preventing his 6 kids from getting into trouble. And
Mm.
he said it was all about opportunity and inclination.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But if you're thinking about becoming a coach, you need opportunity and inclination, and the time is now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to launch a coaching business, what are some primary tools you'll need?
Well, step one is that you can't treat it like a hobby. And
Mm.
I think that this is where a lot of folks go wrong because we tinker, right? We play
Right.
with WordPress, we play with Facebook, we play with Instagram. I remember in the dinosaur days when you and I were starting out, it was really common, and I did this. I 100% did this. I would pay a graphic designer to create a logo
Mhm.
and feel like I was done.
Right, right. Now, it can be a hobby, but don't treat it like a hobby,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So this looks like clear strategy.
Mm.
And a lot of folks don't understand what that means. And this is where we move from hobby, tinkering, graphics, Facebook, WordPress to realistic financial forecasting. The skills and tools that you need to run a small business, like understanding of taxes when they're due, how to do it, LLCs, S corps,
Yeah.
um, marketing know-how, how to attract prospective clients, how to set up a marketing pitch, and then finally, confidence to close sales. And then beyond that, regular maintenance of systems. Businesses don't run on their own. There needs to be someone, if it's not you, that is consistently looking into the books, the numbers, the marketing, the emails. Are things going in the right places? Is something broken? Is the audience getting the message that they need? Is the money coming in? Are the taxes getting paid? It goes on a cycle.
Yeah, and, the other piece of this, something that I'm familiar with because I've been, um, doing it for a long time now is content, and when I started, content wasn't really a thing. There were people, posting stuff and kind of, there's a lot of self-expression, but it wasn't like, um a a flow of it wasn't like this thing that you have to put out consistently with metrics, sometimes using a digital marketing company to help with ads. Like, it wasn't this whole sea of opportunities. It was more of just like, posting once in a while, and it was kind of fun, right? So now content is real. Content is become like the new commercials or advertising or um, television, right? And so, in order to get your message out there, in order to throw your net, to build a clientele, content can be huge. So you have to treat content in a professional way and not just do it when you feel like it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, for those of you that are sitting at home saying, well, I have no idea how to do any of this stuff. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So let's break it down. So, John's talking very broadly about content. And I'm going to turn it around and say, your content is the message that you have in your soul right now that will make somebody else feel better.
Mm. Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
I love that because that wasn't logistical. It came from,
No,
yeah.
No, so, let's play with it. We're emerging from a pandemic. All of us have been facing really crazy life challenges. No one has been having an easy time of things. and the world has changed, and everybody's kind of looking out into the horizon saying, I wonder how much it's changed. What can I expect from emerging on the other side of this thing? John, what is a message that you have from your soul to help other people feel better?
One would be that you're not alone, that you don't have to do things by yourself in this world.
Hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and, mine, I think, would be really similar. Um, and just say, we don't have to accept the status quo anymore.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
we can do things differently. We all have the agency to do so, and we need each other in order to make that come true. And so how about we all team up together to lift this big boulder, and actually change the world?
Yeah, the world doesn't have to be the same. That's
No,
powerful.
it
Yeah.
doesn't. It is powerful. And there we are, with a conversation between two friends, really meaningfully, we created content.
Yeah, we did. We and this form of content is audio because you're listening to us. So yeah, it's not about in what form. It's about what you're saying and why.
Exactly. And the why behind it, is the most important part. There's genuineness in our messages. It's what we really truly believe and what we really truly want others to feel, which is hope.
Right.
And at the end of the day, coaching is the profession of hope. So, even as we're sitting here talking about business and marketing and administration and client sessions and other services, what you're selling is hope. And we can all get behind that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the misconception that coaching means to fix people, or that coaching means to, give people um, answers and tell people how to live. And it's none of that. I mean, at the end of the day, like Noel says, if you could inject hope, that is coaching,
It is.
one form.
It
Yeah.
is. And so now let's go back to the basics and
Hmm.
talk about how most new coaches actually spend their time. And this breakdown is important because it busts a lot of myths, right?
Yeah.
Um, John, did you have an idea of what you thought your life was going to look like as a coach
No.
versus what it actually looks like?
No. Zero. Zero. I had no idea. I was at a time where I just needed to pay bills, and I wanted some clients, and that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else after that.
Yeah. So my future vision was a little bit more formed, but it was really squishy. And I didn't have a clear understanding of what the things that I was thinking about actually meant. So, what I thought that my life was going to look like is I thought I would be taking phone calls for sessions, which I do. So, that part actually came true. And I thought that I would spend a lot of my time writing really inspirational blog posts, which I don't do. And I thought that I would, be able to just travel and wake up anywhere and take my clients, which is sometimes true. So,
Mm.
it wasn't totally off, but what I was missing was a clear understanding of the systems that need to go into place behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah. I love this pie chart, how most new coaches actually spend their time, and this is also new information for me, but I love how it breaks it down. So, if you're imagining a pie chart, 20% is business and admin, 20% is client sessions, 40% is marketing, and then other services 20%, like courses, groups, etc.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so, right there, when John is talking about content and marketing, that's where 40% needs to go, especially when you're starting out because you're building a brand, you're building a name for yourself, you're putting your why out into the world. And that's where you're going to drive your business. It's in your message.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so much can stem from that, like
Mhm.
client sessions and services and, retreats, groups, or whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. And for those of you who like to dual purpose, whatever you create for marketing can be repurposed into courses and groups. And so when you create marketing content and you really spend a lot of critical time focusing on your why, focusing on spreading hope, focusing on the needs of your clients, it's not wasted. Repackage that and turn it into actionable course material, because if somebody sees it and they're drawn to you because they love your message, they're going to want more of that message packaged in lots of different ways.
Facebook's memories, saved my career, and
How?
exactly what we're talking about, repurpose. So, Facebook
Really?
Facebook has this function where it pops up memories, right? It pops up like, memories of, your birthday and things that happened 3 years ago, and so, of course, they do it as kind of a yearbook, and but if you are a content creator, what it does for me is, because I've been posting content on Facebook for the last, I don't know, 12 years, every memory that pops up on Facebook for me is refurbishing. So it automatically pulls up stuff from years ago that I wrote or did a video on, and I just take that and post it across social media today, and no one knows that it's old.
Awesome. And your message, I mean, hasn't changed, so it's still authentic.
Yeah, it's still authentic and it's still me, but it is what Noah was talking about. It's refurbishing, and what's great about that is I'm realizing, because it's not impossible, but it's so hard to sit down every day and create brand new content for the rest of your life. I mean, I don't know if it's sustainable.
It may not be sustainable in the way that you're doing it, and I think this is a really, a strong point, and I'll talk about how I do it, because we have really different processes, and this just goes to illustrate something we talk about all the time, is that it's okay to be different and do things differently.
Right.
So, John, when you create content, you're really pulling it out of yourself and your soul, and you're mirroring back to the world your, very own life.
Yeah, a lot of documenting.
Yeah. And people change, but not that much. So after 12 years, you're very much the same John, that you were 12 years ago. And so as you're constantly trying to mirror and reflect your life, it takes different twists and different turns. Fatherhood was a big adventure for you. Becoming an author was a big adventure for you. But the consistency of your brand has also been what has sustained you over
Hmm.
the years.
Right.
And then I do things totally differently. I'm a researcher at heart, I'm an academic by nature. And so, what I do when I want to create content is I look for the most cutting edge research that's out
Mm,
there.
right.
I read the journals and the books that are published in the same year that I'm living in, because not a lot of people do that. And it's important to me to reflect what's going on within the science of positive psychology. One of the topics that I've been really obsessed with for years is the outcomes of isolation. And there are some really great books that were published in 2020. So I've been pulling the positive psychology literature and the literature on isolation and loneliness, and trying to cobble together some unique theories of how I think coaches can help people come out of this debacle that we've been in.
Right. So you definitely do not use Facebook Memories as a tool to post content.
No, I don't. I
Right.
absolutely don't. I use academic journals and hardcover books.
Right.
And I'll tell you exactly how I work. As I'm reading a book, I highlight and I put sticky notes on my books, and then I take the time to sit down and put the pull quotes in a Word document with the appropriate citation, so that when I'm actually sitting down to write, I have everything at my fingertips. And it takes me about 8 hours to pull together a very well-researched blog post.
Yeah, and then as I'm listening to this, I'm already feeling anxiety and I have a headache just listening to her approach, because it's not me, right? And you shouldn't force something that isn't you because you think it's the way that it should be done, And also for Noelle, maybe when she listens to me documenting and just doing wild and crazy, it's not her, right? So
Oh,
it might bring her anxiety to do that, right? So you got to figure out what's right for you, And because that's what's going to be sustainable. If it's not right for you, it's going to be short lived.
Absolutely. And you're right. Like it gives me complete anxiety every time we do an Instagram live. Like I'm like, "Oh
Right.
my god,
Right.
I can't believe my face is on a thing." But like when it takes me 8 hours to write that blog post, it's done. And I have a piece of unique literature and then we use it for podcasts. We use it teaching in Journey. I use it when I'm talking to businesses about what
Right.
they need to do to help and support their employees. So it becomes, educational tools and learning for a lot of different people. And so me taking that 8 hours, if you're sitting there saying, "Oh my God, who has that kind of time?" Once I do the work is done, and then you can use it in lots of different ways. And so
Yeah.
this is what we're talking about with that 40% going towards marketing.
Yes, and that piece is the same for both of us. Meaning, if I
Mhm.
create a blog post on, say, 3 steps to, I don't know, to divorce recovery, that could be extended to a book, that could be a video, that could be a podcast episode, it could be its own podcast, it could be like so many things, right? So there is that where, when you're creating content, that content can be stretched. The term I use is butter knifing. Taking like a butter knife and really spreading it across multi media platforms, or whatever.
Absolutely. So, guys, hilarious story. John was describing to me his butter knife technique, except he didn't give me the context and just sent me, in a text message the word butter knife, and I thought that it was a new pet name.
I that's a great pet name. I love it. It's kind of adorable and also kind of, badass. Butter
Yeah, so
knife.
I was like, "All right, that's new. We'll go with this. Sure, John." Like,
Well, when I get a dog, his or her name is gonna be Butter Knife. I love it.
perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And so, a tip here, pro tip: slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. Yeah.
That when you're dealing with this, we're literally talking about vision, strategy, and perseverance. And you cannot build a brand overnight. You cannot get good at creating content in the way that serves you overnight.
Right. Right. So, how do you do this?
Mhm. Well, it might sound a little bit hokey coming from us, but one of the best possible things that you can do is hire a coach.
Yeah. Yeah, and the coach to, make you accountable, hold up a mirror, dissect barriers, so many things.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways to do this. I work with a couple different coaches. Some of them I call when I need a really specific, punch in the arm with strategy. Another I work with every week, and that coach specializes in developing female leaders. And it kicks my ass, and it makes me commit to doing and following through on the things that I say that I'm going to, and gives me the confidence to stand up and be who I am. And so from one coach to another, I can't recommend the discipline enough. And John, you've done this in lots of different ways. I remember at the outset, you built your own men's entrepreneur group.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we used to meet at my place, on a Saturday night, and a lot of it wasn't even about entrepreneurship. A lot of it was about just real stuff happening in our lives, and realizing that that is getting in the way of, or us not talking about that, that become barriers, to us accomplishing goals. So a lot of times you'll be talking with your coach about your practice or what you're building, and the conversation goes deeper, and you realize that what's preventing you isn't even on the surface, but it's something underneath. And that's when I feel like those sessions are really powerful. So a lot of the entrepreneur group, on the Saturday nights, wasn't even about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and that's the way coaching works. And I had one of those sessions last week. Both of my parents were able to get their first dose of the COVID vaccine. And for me, that means that I can see them and we can maybe spend our next holiday together. And I didn't realize the amount of grief that I was holding in my body being so separated from my parents over this last year. And that was what the coaching session was about.
Yeah, that's really
And I
interesting.
needed it.
Right,
I
right.
needed to get it out because it was blocking me from doing other things.
Yeah.
So, as we're in the weeds, let's pull back out and talk about the market outlook for coaches because, it's an incredibly effective discipline. Everyone can benefit from having a coach at some point in their life. I believe that everyone can benefit from having a coach regularly because it keeps your goals front and center in your mind and keeps you accountable for follow through because humans, we're lazy. Left to our own devices, we would not do the damn thing.
Yeah,
Um,
we're lazy and we're afraid.
yeah. Yes, we are lazy and we are afraid. And so, coaching gives you permission to push outside of that fear. Um, and I think that it's really catching on. All of the market data says that coaching is a wave that is just going to keep rolling. Now is the time to surf. There are more than 71,000 coach practitioners worldwide.
Yes. I'm gonna say now is the time to get on your board and start paddling, um, because I don't think a lot of people just can surf instantly. So yes, there's this huge wave, and we're seeing it. We're seeing the swell coming, and now is the time to kind of turn your board around and start paddling.
Yeah.
To catch the wave.
So and this is a really great example of John who actually knows how to surf and Noelle who doesn't. I didn't know, I forgot the paddling part. Um, but so yes, and let's take a look at that number: 71,000 coach practitioners worldwide. Um, as far as the amount of humans who are out there in the world, that's not a very big number.
No, that's not big at all. Actually, that's small.
It's small, and I think one of the traps that folks fall into when they first enter the field of coaching is they look around and they feel like, "Oh my god, everybody's doing this. Everybody's a coach. I'm the last one to the party. Everyone's successful but me." And it's simply not true. Coaching is an emerging field. The value of coaching is just beginning to be understood by really wide swaths of society. Coaching is expanding the most right now, actually, in South America, which I think is really, really cool.
Wow.
It's growing in Europe. We have a lot of folks from Europe who come through JRNI. In the US, it's really taken hold on the coasts and is starting to move in towards the center of the country. And we need more coaches. There's also a shortage of therapists globally
Mm.
right now.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
there is a shortage of therapists. There aren't enough therapists to serve all of the people who are in need, and one of the reasons that that piece of data is important for coaches is that coaching lives on the bookends of therapy.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I think a lot of people think coaches that it's saturated because if you're interested in being coach, you're probably following other coaches and wellness companies and all that, and so your feed's flooded with coaches, but you're not seeing outside of your feed. So it's almost like you've created a bubble, especially on social media, where you're seeing a ton of coaches because you're of course following coaches, and that's that's what the social media is going to put on your feed. So you think there's a lot more coaches than there actually are.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's for anything, if you decide. So John and I are probably gonna start getting targeted ads for surfing now, because
Yes.
we've been talking about it today, and I'm
Right.
gonna think that everybody around me is a surfer except for me, and, it might be true. I don't have the upper body strength. I just don't. Um, and so, kind of pulling back here, we know that coaching is currently a $2.85 billion industry. So, with 71,000 coach practitioners, the consumer demand is off the charts.
Mm.
And another thing that has impacted coaching is the pandemic, is COVID.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's had a positive impact on business for coaches, period. 24% of coaches surveyed said that they are experiencing increased business as a result of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. I mean, but it makes sense, on
Mhm.
different levels why it makes sense.
Yep. And so, let's look at the consumer. What are consumers thinking? Um, Consumers are freaked out. everybody's freaked out. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in industry. A lot of people have lost their jobs. Businesses are struggling. And at the same time, there's this huge wellspring of hope. And people are really looking out into the world and saying, I want to do things differently now. I don't want to go back into the rat race. I don't want to cave to the status quo. And just like we said earlier, people are lazy and scared. You need a coach to kick your ass if you're going to get out there into the world and really do things differently.
Right.
So this is the landscape in real time, and it's really rich in a lot of different ways. The biggest concern that consumers have are coaches who are untrained individuals who call themselves coaches.
Yeah, I gotta say, one of my biggest pet peeves is to be scrolling through social media, and I see a friend, and she's calling herself a coach now, and I know that she has had no training. Um, and part of me is kind of offended as a friend. She didn't reach out to me to ask about journey or whatever. But then another part of me is like, oh, if you're just going to call yourself a coach without any training, one, it's probably not going to work out for you. And two, you're doing a disservice to not only yourself but the world, because it's, in a way, it's false advertising. You can't be a coach just because you're passionate about helping other people.
It's true. And what I see happening in the world is, because of like hashtag coach life, the folks who jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, okay, I'm a coach now,
Right.
don't understand that there is a science, there's a methodology to the practice of coaching. And what they end up doing is giving people advice, telling them what they think they should do
Right.
with their
Right.
lives, or telling them what they themselves have done with their lives. Um,
There's an ethical responsibility, I can't help someone with their broken arm. I'm not a medical uh, uh, practitioner. I can't help, like, I, just because I had a child doesn't mean I'm suddenly now going to charge money and help other women, have children like that. That I don't have the training, and with coaching, for some reason, people think that, oh, well, other people are coaching. I know how to. I'm the person in my group of friends where people come to advice. I give really good advice. I'm going to call myself a life coach. I've got a lot of followers, and I'm just going to do it.
yeah, and as not okay as that is, I think that the fact that it's happening points to how young and new and still emerging this field is.
Right, right.
And this, thinking back, I don't know, 100 years ago when the medical profession was in its infancy, John said, he's not going to go out and pretend to be a doctor. But guess what? There were certainly people who did do that.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting.
And they
Yeah.
called, I mean, circus tents. The doctors come to town, drink my snake oil, and
Right,
you'll feel
right.
better. And that really happened. And so, just history tends to repeat itself.
Yeah.
And so, what we're seeing is the way that humans work. Humans are shifty. Um, it's true. And the moral of the story here is that properly trained coaches help to legitimize the coaching profession, which is good for all of us. And properly trained coaches can actually help clients, which is good for the clients.
Right. I mean, here's what happens though. It plays itself out because if you're not trained, it's going to show in your confidence. It's going to show in, the results, or lack of results. And so, yeah, I don't think it's going to work out.
Yeah, and really specifically, the lack of results that tends to manifest in is in a really bad relationship with a client, where the client will get angry and say, you're not listening to me, and I tried what you said and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
and and then you open yourself up to liability. So it's not a good look. Don't do it. And getting some basic coaching credentials is not far out of reach. So take a look at everything that's out there. There's a coach training program for everyone. At Journey, we seek adventurous souls, we seek irreverent individuals, we seek people who want to do things differently, who really dance to their own drumbeat. And when somebody comes to Journey, if we feel that there'd be another program that's a better fit for them, we'll tell them, and help them find their good fit. Because there's room at the table for every single one of us in this space, and getting people to the right place, whether it's a client or a student, is how we roll in coach
Yeah,
land. It's all
yeah.
based on ethics.
And find your people, go, toward the coach training program where you're like, "Oh, I could relate to these people. I could relate to this instructor. I could relate to, the message that they're waving." Um, that's because that's gonna be a part of your training. So it's not just, what's, on the page. It's not just the lecturer's information. It's the actual human experience of, um, learning with, your cohort and all these instructors.
Oh, yeah. And the keywords that jumped out to me are the human experience, because that's the heartbeat of coaching, is the human experience
Mhm.
and the trials and tribulations that we all face just getting up every day and going through our lives.
Yeah.
So whether you're coaching, you're a coach in training, or you're just dreaming about it, um, there's a term, it's called sonder, Sonder, and it's in the Urban Dictionary. I don't think it's a real word in the Oxford Dictionary, but the concept I love. And the concept is, okay, so you're sitting in a coffee house and you're looking out the window and you see people walking around the street, and you've been lost in your own head. You've been lost in your own thought and your own troubles and your own depth of existence. Every single other person out there on the street is having the same experience.
Mm. Yeah.
And we're just these, you know, sacks of human skin where we have universes inside of us.
Right.
And that's what coaching dices out. And it's so romantic and it's so beautiful. Um, and that's why we do the work.
Yeah, I love that. I love this abstract painting that you just painted in words. I love it.
Yeah. So let's talk about doing the work, because I'd say there are four things. Once you get past coach training, once you get past your why, once you get past your marketing messages, um, there are four things that are just true. And the first one is that for every hour of active coaching, you're going to need time, bookends, to prepare for the session, to compile your notes, and to take the next steps and follow up communication with a client. So, as you're scheduling your time, as you're designing your life, thinking about those human stories, thinking about the impact that those human stories might have on you. If you're a very sensitive person, for example, you're going to need a little bit more time
Yeah.
in, in between sessions, or really maybe one session a day is all you can handle. And that's okay.
Yeah. Noelle, you're an empath, would you say?
Yes, I am so
Yeah.
sensitive.
I am not, and so, Noelle may need a little more time because she probably absorbs, the energy of the client and a lot more things where I tend to have a shield that it bounces off of. So yeah, you got to know, what you can handle, how it affects you, because every session can be powerful in that way.
Yeah. There was a point at, the height of the pandemic where I needed to refer every single one of my clients to a therapist or
Mm,
to inpatient.
yeah,
Every single one of them needed medical attention, and I was carrying their stories around with me, and not everyone was listening to me. I had to threaten to terminate the coaching contracts, and carrying those life stories with me took a toll.
yeah,
And I needed to create space in order to do it. That's why I only take on a handful of clients at a time,
yeah,
because I need to be real with how I can live my life.
yeah. So you just have to know yourself.
Yep. Know yourself. And then, number two is, to attract clients, you're going to be spending a lot of time on marketing and content creation. 40% to start.
Yeah, and that's just a fact. It's just something that you have to do, to get yourself out there and get people to know who you are and what what your services are.
Mhm. And then if you're offering other products, online courses, groups, podcasting, you need to also develop and manage those services.
Yeah.
So you can imagine another 40% will go there for those specific offerings as well.
Yep.
And then when we're looking at administrative time, And this is the place where there is no stronger message in that you don't have to do it alone. You really, really, really don't. If you're not good at Excel spreadsheets or filing taxes, outsource it.
Yeah, that's it's like it reminds me of that saying, "Work smarter, not harder."
Mhm.
Yeah, I would not be smart if I spent my time doing administrative work because A, that's not my gift, and B, I need my time to be doing other things that are creative, that, at least for me, other people can't do, right? So
Yeah,
it's something that, and so if there's something that only you can do, that's where you should spend your time, and if there are things that other people can do for you, and then that's hireable.
100%. So, in sum, play to your genius zone, live your why, don't be afraid of creating content, just speak your truth. Coaching is booming right now. All human service professions are booming right now. So if you're drawn to this field, you're in the right space at the right time. Um, and plan your life in a way that works for you.
Everything she just said, and I'll see you in class maybe.
Yay! That would be awesome. All right, friends, have a great day.
Yeah, thank you for listening. And if you missed the other two, go check them out. We have a three-part series on Can I Make It as a Coach? Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to journey.co/everything to explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a strong community to do it in. We created Journey Coaching to equip you with the tools, training, and community you need to attain your goals.
Join Journey Coaching and begin your journey towards personal freedom and a transformative state of growth today. That's jrni.co/everything.